The first wave of the invasion arrived without warning. Massive Quarren battleships materialized in Earth's orbit, their obsidian hulls reflecting the morning sunlight like razor-sharp mirrors. Sensor arrays across the planet lit up simultaneously, triggering global defense protocols that had been rehearsed countless times, but never truly tested. Lieutenant Sarah Chen stood at the forward observation post of the Pacific Rim Defense Station, her eyes fixed on the alien vessels that now dominated the sky. The station's reinforced windows trembled slightly, a testament to the immense gravitational disturbance caused by the massive ships. Around her, a team of international specialists moved with practiced precision, their fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. Incoming energy signature, called out a technician from the far side of the command center. His voice was calm, but a thin layer of sweat betrayed his tension. Massive output. Preliminary scans suggest it's beyond anything in our database. Sarah watched as the first energy weapon discharged. It was nothing like the conventional weapons humanity had encountered before. The blast looked like a concentrated beam of pure light, so intense that it seemed to warp the very fabric of space around it. Traditional military doctrine suggested complete obliteration was imminent. But something extraordinary happened. The energy beam struck the outermost defensive line, a series of reinforced bunkers positioned along the coastline. Instead of vaporizing everything in its path, the weapon did something unprecedented. The structures didn't just survive. They seemed to absorb the massive energy discharge. More remarkable was what happened to the soldiers. The troops positioned closest to the impact zone, who by all rational understanding should have been instantly incinerated, remained standing. Not only did they survive, but they appeared energized. Their combat systems lit up with unprecedented readings. Biometric displays showed increased neural activity, accelerated cellular regeneration, and a bizarre metabolic response that defied all previous scientific understanding. "This can't be possible," muttered Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who had been monitoring the initial contact from a secure research facility hundreds of miles away. Her screens displayed a cascade of data that challenged everything known about human physiology and energy interactions. The Quarren command ship, observing from orbit, went silent. Their tactical computers struggled to process the impossible scenario unfolding before them. Every previous invasion had followed a predictable pattern: energy weapon discharge, total organic elimination, planetary submission. But humans were rewriting the script. Sarah Chen's unit began to move with a newfound confidence. Soldiers who had been hit by the energy blast reported a strange sensation. Not pain, but a profound awareness. Their neural networks seemed to be mapping the energy signature, understanding its composition in real time. "Command, this is forward unit," Sarah transmitted, her voice steady. "Initial energy weapon contact has resulted in 0 casualties. Repeat, 0 casualties. We are adapting." The word adapting sent a ripple of excitement and confusion through military channels worldwide. This was no ordinary defensive response. Something fundamental was happening at the cellular level of human biology. In orbital monitoring stations, research facilities, and military command centers across the planet, scientists and strategists watched in collective astonishment. The Quarren invasion, which was supposed to be a swift and total conquest, had encountered an insurmountable variable: human unpredictability. Dr. Rodriguez knew they were witnessing something revolutionary. The human body wasn't just resisting the energy weapon, it was learning from it. Each molecular interaction seemed to trigger a complex adaptive response that went far beyond simple survival. It was evolution in motion, happening in real time, right before their eyes. The alien fleet hung motionless in the sky, their initial confidence transforming into a growing sense of uncertainty. Humanity had just demonstrated that it was not just another species to be conquered. It was a civilization capable of turning an existential threat into an opportunity for growth. As the first day of the invasion drew to a close, one thing became terrifyingly clear to the Quarren. They had severely underestimated the potential of the human species. The research facility hummed with an electric intensity that transcended typical scientific excitement. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a wall of holographic displays, each screen flickering with streams of genetic data, cellular imaging, and complex molecular models. Blood samples from the soldiers who survived the initial energy weapon attack were unlike anything she had ever seen. "This is impossible," she muttered, zooming in on a microscopic view of human cells that had been exposed to the alien energy discharge. Traditional understanding of cellular biology suggested complete destruction. Instead, these cells were transforming, their molecular structure reshaping in response to the energy input. Dr. Marcus Way, a geneticist specializing in adaptive biochemistry, joined Elena at the primary research station. His fingers danced across the interface, pulling up comparative models. "Look at the mitochondrial response," he said, highlighting a section of the cellular structure. "It's not just surviving. It's actively processing the energy as if it were a new form of nutrient." The research team worked in shifts, their dedication fueled by the magnitude of their discovery. They had assembled a diverse group of experts: geneticists, quantum physicists, neurobiologists, and computer scientists. Each discipline brought a unique perspective to unraveling the mystery of human adaptability. Initial findings suggested that human DNA contained dormant genetic mechanisms that activated under extreme energy stress. Unlike other known sentient species studied through galactic databases, humans possessed a biochemical firewall that allowed cellular structures to momentarily restructure when bombarded by energy weapons. A breakthrough came during a late-night analysis session. Dr. Rodriguez noticed a peculiar pattern in the genetic sequencing. Certain gene clusters, long considered junk DNA by previous scientific understanding, were actually complex adaptive mechanisms. These genetic segments appeared to create a dynamic shield, redistributing energy at the molecular level. "It's like our bodies have a built-in adaptive algorithm," Elena explained to the team. "Each exposure teaches the cellular structure how to better manage incoming energy. We're not just defending, we're learning." Blood samples from different soldiers revealed fascinating variations. Some individuals showed more pronounced adaptive responses, suggesting a potential genetic predisposition to this unique ability. The research team began mapping these genetic markers, creating a comprehensive database of human energy resistance. Dr. Wei developed a sophisticated computer model that could simulate the cellular adaptation process. The digital representation showed how human cells literally reshape their molecular structure, creating temporary energy dissipation channels. What appeared to be destruction was actually a complex transformation process. Global scientific institutions began collaborating at an unprecedented rate. Researchers who had previously been competitors now shared data in real time, recognizing the potential implications of their discovery. The Quarren invasion had inadvertently revealed a fundamental aspect of human potential that had remained hidden throughout our species' evolution. Quantum physicists joined the research, fascinated by the energy interaction. Dr. Sofia Nakamura, a leading expert in quantum biology, proposed a revolutionary theory. "Our cellular structure isn't just passive," she argued during a global conference. "We're seeing evidence of quantum-level adaptive responses. The human body can potentially read and redistribute energy signatures at a fundamental level." The implications were staggering. If humans could adapt to energy weapons, what other capabilities might be hidden within their genetic code? The research expanded beyond military applications, with potential medical and technological innovations on the horizon. Late one evening, as Elena reviewed the latest data, she discovered something extraordinary. The adaptive response wasn't random. There was an underlying pattern, a kind of cellular intelligence that suggested these mechanisms had been dormant but waiting. Evolution had prepared humanity for a challenge they hadn't yet encountered. "We're not just survivors," she wrote in her research log. "We're a species designed to transform challenges into opportunities." The scientific community buzzed with excitement. Press conferences were carefully managed, releasing just enough information to keep global interest high without revealing sensitive details. Military strategists began to understand that their greatest weapon wasn't technology, but the remarkable adaptability of the human body itself. As the research continued, one question remained. What other incredible capabilities were waiting to be unlocked within human biology? The Quarren invasion had become more than a threat. It was a catalyst for the greatest scientific discovery in human history. The proving ground stretched across a desolate landscape, a carefully constructed testing environment designed to simulate potential alien encounter scenarios. Major Jack Harper watched from the command center, his weathered hands gripping a digital tablet that displayed real-time biometric data from the experimental training unit. "Initiate Phase 3, he commanded, his voice crisp and controlled. 12 soldiers moved into position, each wearing an advanced monitoring suit that captured every microscopic cellular change. They were the first of the adaptive response teams, soldiers specially selected for their potential energy resistance capabilities. Unlike traditional military units, these teams represented a radical new approach to combat readiness. The energy cannon at the far end of the proving ground hummed to life. Developed from reverse-engineered Quarren weapon technologies, it could simulate the alien energy discharge with unprecedented accuracy. Previous tests had shown that controlled exposure could accelerate the human body's adaptive response. Lieutenant Sarah Chen stood at the center of the formation. Her previous experience during the initial invasion had marked her as a prime candidate for the experimental program. As the first energy pulse discharged, she felt a now familiar sensation, a tingling that spread from her skin deep into her cellular structure. Dr. Elena Rodriguez monitored the data streams from a secured research station adjacent to the proving ground. "Fascinating," she muttered, watching the real-time genetic mapping. The soldiers' bodies weren't just resisting the energy, they were actively learning from it. Each exposure created new neural pathways, new cellular defensive mechanisms. The training evolved rapidly. What began as controlled scientific experiments transformed into a comprehensive military program. Soldiers learned to do more than simply survive energy weapon attacks. They began to understand them, to anticipate them, to interact with them in ways that defied previous scientific understanding. Marcus, one of the younger members of the adaptive response team, demonstrated an extraordinary breakthrough during a training exercise. When the energy pulse hit him, instead of simply absorbing or deflecting it, he seemed to redirect the energy. The monitoring equipment went wild, capturing data that suggested the human body could potentially use energy weapons as a form of power source. "It's not just defense," Dr. Rodriguez explained during a classified briefing. "We're witnessing the potential for active energy manipulation. The human body is creating its own defensive and offensive capabilities." Military strategists began reimagining combat doctrine. The adaptive response teams were no longer just defensive units. They represented a new form of living weapon system, capable of learning and transforming in real time. Specialized training programs were developed to help soldiers understand and control their newfound capabilities. Psychological evaluation became a critical component of the program. Not every soldier could handle the intense cellular transformation. Some experienced psychological strain as their bodies underwent changes that challenged fundamental understanding of human physiology. Specialized counseling and mental health support became as crucial as the physical training. The global scientific community watched with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. What they were witnessing was nothing short of a biological revolution. Humanity was demonstrating an ability to evolve not over generations, but in real time, in response to an existential threat. During one critical training session, Lieutenant Chen achieved something that seemed impossible. When hit by a concentrated energy pulse, she not only absorbed the energy, but appeared to create a localized electromagnetic field. The monitoring equipment struggled to capture the full extent of the transformation. "We're rewriting the rules of biological adaptation," Major Harper noted during a private discussion with senior research leaders. The Quarren thought they were bringing a weapon. Instead, they triggered humanity's most profound survival mechanism. As the training program expanded, recruitment became highly selective. Genetic screening, psychological evaluations, and physical assessments identified individuals with the highest potential for energy adaptation. The adaptive response teams represented humanity's most advanced defense, a living, breathing response to an alien threat. The proving grounds became more than a training facility. It was a laboratory of human potential, a place where the boundaries between biology, technology, and survival were being redrawn with each passing day. By the end of the initial training phase, one thing became clear. Humanity was no longer just preparing to defend itself. It was learning to transform the very nature of conflict. The United Nations Emergency Session looked unlike any previous gathering in human history. Representatives from every corner of the globe sat shoulder to shoulder, their differences momentarily set aside by the unprecedented threat that loomed above Earth. Large holographic displays showed real-time data from research facilities, military installations, and orbital monitoring stations. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of the circular conference room, her presentation cutting through centuries of geopolitical tension. Behind her, dynamic visualizations demonstrated the extraordinary potential of human energy adaptation. Nations that had been long-standing rivals now found themselves united by a single compelling mission. "This is not just a military challenge," she explained, her voice steady and compelling. "This is an opportunity for collective human advancement. The energy weapon adaptation we've discovered transcends national boundaries. It's a fundamental characteristic of our species." The Chinese delegation, led by Dr. Wei, shared breakthrough research on cellular regeneration. Simultaneously, a team from the European Space Agency presented advanced communication technologies that could help coordinate global defense strategies. Indian scientists revealed innovative methods for tracking and predicting energy weapon signatures. American research teams contributed advanced computational models that could simulate potential alien attack scenarios. Funding barriers dissolved overnight. Research institutions that had previously competed now shared resources, data, and personnel with unprecedented openness. Universities established global networks, creating a continuous knowledge exchange that operated around the clock. Doctoral students in Brazil collaborated in real time with senior researchers in Japan, their combined efforts pushing the boundaries of scientific understanding. Lieutenant Sarah Chen found herself at the center of this global collaboration. Her initial experiences during the first alien attack had made her a critical bridge between military operations and scientific research. She traveled between research facilities, sharing her personal experiences and helping to train new adaptive response teams. The military approach transformed dramatically. Instead of individual national defense strategies, a unified global defense command emerged. Soldiers from different countries trained together, sharing techniques for energy weapon adaptation. Language barriers fell away as a new, shared understanding of human potential took root. Technological innovation accelerated at an unprecedented rate. Satellite networks were reconfigured to provide early warning systems against potential alien energy attacks. Communication technologies evolved to handle the complex data generated by the adaptive response research. Every aspect of human infrastructure began to incorporate the lessons learned from energy weapon resistance. Economic systems adapted as well. Traditional defense contractors found themselves working alongside research institutions, universities, and international organizations. The global economy began to shift, prioritizing scientific advancement and collective security over individual national interests. Dr. Rodriguez discovered something even more profound during a collaborative research session. The energy weapon adaptation wasn't just a defensive mechanism. It represented a fundamental shift in human understanding of biological potential. Each breakthrough suggested that humanity had vast, untapped capabilities waiting to be discovered. "We're not just defending," she told a packed conference of international scientists. "We're evolving." The Quarren invasion has become a catalyst for human advancement. Humanitarian efforts expanded alongside the scientific research. The technologies and understanding gained from energy weapon adaptation began to show potential medical applications. Treatments for cellular regeneration, advanced healing techniques, and new approaches to understanding human physiology emerged from the collaborative research. Satellite imagery showed something remarkable. Cities that had been damaged during the initial invasion were being rebuilt with a new sense of purpose. Construction sites buzzed with activity, incorporating new adaptive technologies. Infrastructure was no longer just about rebuilding. It was about creating something fundamentally more resilient. The global communication networks lit up with a sense of collective hope. Social media platforms, news channels, and scientific forums discussed the unprecedented human response to the alien threat. For the first time in human history, the entire species seemed to be moving in the same direction. As the day of the United Nations session drew to a close, one thing became abundantly clear. The Quarren invasion had done more than threaten humanity. It had revealed the extraordinary potential that existed when humans truly worked together. The fight for survival had become something more. It was now a journey of collective discovery, a testament to human adaptability, cooperation, and boundless potential. Deep within the command structure of the Quarren invasion fleet, something unprecedented was happening. Fear had become a tangible presence, spreading through their hierarchical communication networks like a virulent disease. The initial confidence that had driven their galactic conquests now crumbled in the face of humanity's inexplicable resistance. Commander Vrix stood before the central holographic display, his tentacle-like appendages trembling slightly as he reviewed the accumulated battle reports. Each transmission from the forward units told a story that defied every known principle of biological warfare. Humans were not just surviving the energy weapon attacks. They were thriving. The Quarren had conquered hundreds of civilizations across multiple star systems. Their technological superiority had been absolute, their energy weapons capable of reducing entire planetary populations to atomic dust in moments. But humans were different. Each attack seemed to make them stronger, more adaptive, more unpredictable. Psychological analysis teams worked frantically to understand the human response. Their advanced computational systems, which had successfully predicted and manipulated the behavior of countless species, now struggled to create meaningful models. Human behavior existed outside of any known predictive framework. Communication intercepts revealed something even more disturbing. The humans weren't just defending. They were studying, learning, and potentially preparing to turn the Quarren's most advanced weapon into something entirely new. Reports from forward units spoke of human soldiers who seemed to welcome energy weapon attacks, their bodies creating some form of cellular response that was beyond comprehension. "We are facing an entirely new form of life," reported Sub-Commander Krell during an emergency council session. His voice carried a tone that was almost unprecedented in Quarren culture: uncertainty. The massive holographic chamber, usually a place of calculated strategy, now buzzed with an unfamiliar emotional undercurrent. Military units began to fracture. Some Quarren commanders advocated for continued assault, believing that sufficient energy output would eventually overcome human resistance. Others argued for retreat, suggesting that humanity represented a threat unlike any they had encountered in their centuries of galactic conquest. The psychological impact extended beyond the military leadership. Quarren communication networks, typically characterized by cold efficiency, now carried undertones of confusion and fear. Their entire civilizational approach to conquest relied on overwhelming technological superiority. Humanity was systematically dismantling that fundamental belief. Intelligence analysts discovered something even more shocking. Human communication channels were filled with the emotion the Quarren found incomprehensible: excitement. Where other species would show terror, humans displayed a kind of curious enthusiasm. Each energy weapon attack was treated as an opportunity for understanding rather than a threat of destruction. Lieutenant Sarah Chen became a particular point of fascination. Intercepted communications showed her leading training sessions where soldiers learned to not just survive, but potentially harness the energy weapon attacks. Her calm demeanor in the face of what should have been certain destruction challenged every Quarren understanding of biological survival. The invasion's momentum began to slow. Quarren ships that had once moved with surgical precision now hesitated. Forward units requested increasingly complex authorization for engagement, their tactical algorithms unable to process the unpredictable human response. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, monitoring the shifting dynamics from her research facility, understood something profound. The Quarren weren't just facing a military challenge. They were confronting a species that fundamentally understood adaptation in a way no other civilization had ever demonstrated. Diplomatic channels, typically used only for final surrender negotiations, began to show signs of unusual activity. Other species within the galactic community, long suppressed by Quarren expansion, watched the unfolding conflict with growing interest. Humanity's response suggested something revolutionary. That technological superiority was not the ultimate measure of the civilization's potential. As the invasion entered its critical phase, the Quarren leadership faced an impossible choice. Continue an assault against a species that seemed to grow stronger with each attack, or retreat and risk losing their galactic reputation of invincibility. The humans had done more than defend their planet. They had fundamentally challenged the Quarren's understanding of biological warfare, technological superiority, and the very nature of survival itself. The International Research Complex rose from the desert landscape like a beacon of human innovation. Multiple interconnected facilities spread across several acres, each building representing a different aspect of the emerging technological revolution. Scientists, engineers, and researchers from every corner of the globe worked with a sense of purpose that transcended traditional boundaries. Dr. Elena Rodriguez walked through the central laboratory, her tablet displaying a complex holographic model of human cellular adaptation. The energy weapon resistance had become more than a defensive mechanism. It was now the foundation of unprecedented technological development. Medical research teams made the first breakthrough. The cellular adaptation mechanisms discovered during the Quarren invasion showed potential for revolutionary medical treatments. Doctors observed that the same energy processing capabilities that protected soldiers could be adapted to treat cellular degradation, potentially offering new approaches to healing chronic diseases, repairing nerve damage, and even slowing the aging process. The Materials Science Division developed adaptive protective gear that seemed to defy conventional physics. Traditional body armor was replaced with smart materials that could redistribute energy impact, change molecular density, and provide protection that adapted in real time to different types of threats. What once required multiple layers of complex protection could now be achieved with a single, responsive material. Lieutenant Sarah Chen led the practical application teams. Her direct experience with energy weapon exposure made her an invaluable bridge between theoretical research and practical implementation. Training facilities evolved into living laboratories, where soldiers became both test subjects and researchers. Communication technologies underwent a radical transformation. The ability to process and redistribute energy at the cellular level translated into breakthrough signal processing techniques. New communication systems could transmit data with unprecedented efficiency, creating networks that were more resilient and adaptive than any previous technology. Energy production sought its most significant revolution. Researchers discovered that the human cellular adaptation mechanism could be partially mimicked in power generation systems. Experimental power plants began developing energy collection methods that could adapt to different input sources, dramatically increasing efficiency and reducing waste. Dr. Marcus Way's team made a stunning discovery in quantum computing. The adaptive cellular mechanism provided insights into creating self-modifying computational systems. Traditional binary computing gave way to adaptive quantum networks that could reshape their own processing capabilities in real time, learning and evolving much like human cells had demonstrated during the invasion. Space exploration technologies received an unexpected boost. The energy adaptation research provided new approaches to radiation shielding, life support systems, and spacecraft design. Engineers developed protective systems that could adjust to varying environmental conditions, making long-term space missions suddenly seem more feasible. Agricultural science found innovative applications. Crop development teams began exploring ways to create plant varieties that could adapt to changing environmental conditions, drawing inspiration from the human cellular adaptation mechanisms. Drought-resistant crops, plants that could survive in extreme temperatures, became more than just theoretical possibilities. The global economic landscape transformed. Traditional technology companies struggled to keep up with the rapid innovation. New startup ecosystems emerged, focused entirely on translating the energy adaptation research into practical technologies. Venture capital flooded into research facilities that showed potential for breakthrough developments. International patent offices worked overtime, struggling to categorize the flood of innovative technologies. What had begun as a defensive response to an alien invasion was rapidly becoming the most significant technological leap in human history. Dr. Rodriguez understood the profound implications. The Quarren invasion had done more than threaten humanity. It had unlocked potential that had been dormant within the human species for millennia. Each breakthrough suggested that their adaptation was not just a biological quirk, but a fundamental characteristic of human potential. As the research continued, one question remained constant. What other incredible capabilities were waiting to be discovered? The technological revolution was just beginning, and humanity stood on the precipice of a new era of innovation and understanding. The story of human adaptation was no longer about survival. It was about transformation. The diplomatic vessel approached Earth's orbital space with unprecedented caution. Representatives from 6 different galactic civilizations sat in tense anticipation, their various biological forms pressed against advanced viewing panels. Humanity's reputation had spread faster than any communication network could track. Ambassador Zara of the Exarillion Collective studied the human data archives with a mixture of fascination and concern. Her crystalline sensory nodes processed information differently from human brains, yet the adaptive capabilities of the human species challenged every established understanding of biological evolution. Dr. Elena Rodriguez prepared for the most critical diplomatic meeting in human history. The research facility had been transformed into a neutral ground, designed to showcase humanity's newfound capabilities without appearing overtly threatening. Each alien delegation would receive carefully curated demonstrations of human technological and biological adaptability. The first to arrive were the Krell, a silicon-based species that had long suffered under Quarren oppression. Their representative, a cluster of interconnected crystalline structures, communicated through complex light patterns that translated to a mixture of hope and wariness. They had witnessed humanity's resistance and saw potential allies where others saw only a young species. Diplomatic protocols dissolved rapidly. Traditional galactic communication methods gave way to more dynamic exchanges. The human ability to adapt wasn't just a defensive mechanism, it was a form of communication itself. Each alien species began to understand that humanity represented something entirely new in the galactic ecosystem. Lieutenant Sarah Chen stood as a living testament to human potential. Her body, still showing subtle changes from energy weapon exposure, became a focal point of scientific and diplomatic interest. Medical scanners from various alien civilizations attempted to understand the cellular transformation that had become uniquely human. The Syndicate of Free Worlds, a loose confederation of species previously conquered by the Quarren, watched the diplomatic proceedings with intense interest. Intelligence reports suggested that humanity's adaptive capabilities could be the key to challenging the long-standing Quarren dominance in the galactic power structure. Dr. Marcus White presented a comprehensive overview of human technological developments. Each breakthrough traced back to the energy weapon adaptation demonstrated how a single defensive mechanism could revolutionize multiple scientific disciplines. The alien delegates listened with a combination of professional curiosity and growing respect. Diplomatic negotiations took on a character unlike any previous galactic encounter. Humans didn't approach the discussions as a single nation or even a unified planet, but as a species with collective potential. Each delegation found themselves challenged to reconsider fundamental assumptions about technological and biological development. The Exarillion ambassador discovered something remarkable during a closed-session analysis. Human adaptation wasn't just a physical response. It represented a form of collective intelligence that transcended individual biological limitations. The ability to learn and transform in real time suggested capabilities far beyond conventional understanding. Technological exchanges began almost spontaneously. Species that had previously been isolated by Quarren control now saw humanity as a potential bridge. Research proposals, collaborative defense strategies, and cultural exchange programs emerged from what was supposed to be a simple diplomatic meeting. Dr. Rodriguez understood the profound moment unfolding. Humanity was no longer just defending itself. It had become a catalyst for potential galactic transformation. The Quarren invasion, intended to be a moment of destruction, had instead opened up unprecedented possibilities for interstellar cooperation. Political maps of known space began to shift. The Quarren's long-standing dominance crumbled as more species recognized the potential of human adaptability. What had been a hierarchical galactic structure started to transform into a more dynamic, interconnected network. Communication technologies developed during the diplomatic sessions suggested a new form of interspecies understanding. The human ability to process and adapt to different energy signatures translated into communication methods that could bridge significant biological and technological differences. As the diplomatic session drew to a close, one thing became clear. Humanity had entered the galactic stage, not as a conquered species, but as a transformative force. The Quarren invasion had triggered something far more significant than a simple conflict. It had unleashed humanity's potential onto the galactic stage. The universe would never be the same. 5 years after the Quarren invasion, the world looked fundamentally different. The international research complex that had emerged during the conflict now stood as a testament to human potential, its gleaming structures a symbol of collective achievement and unprecedented scientific advancement. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood on the observation deck, watching the first interstellar exploration vessel prepare for launch. The ship embodied everything humanity had learned during the invasion: adaptive technologies, energy-responsive systems, and a design that challenged traditional understanding of space travel. Lieutenant Sarah Chen, now leading the first interstellar exploration team, performed final system checks. Her body still carried subtle markers of the energy weapon adaptation, a living reminder of humanity's extraordinary journey. The mission represented more than scientific exploration. It was a declaration of human potential. Global society had transformed dramatically. The collective experience of the invasion had dissolved many previous barriers. National boundaries became less significant as humanity recognized its collective strength. Educational systems were redesigned to nurture the adaptive capabilities that had proven so crucial during the conflict. Medical breakthroughs continued to emerge from the research initiated during the invasion. Treatments for previously incurable diseases, advanced regenerative therapies, and new understanding of cellular adaptation offered hope to millions. The energy weapon resistance had unlocked secrets of human biology that had remained hidden for millennia. The diplomatic relationships established during the post-invasion period continued to evolve. The Exarillion Collective, the Krell, and other galactic civilizations now view humanity as a critical partner rather than a young, unproven species. Scientific and cultural exchanges happened at an unprecedented rate. Dr. Marcus Way's research team made continuous discoveries. The adaptive mechanisms that had protected humanity during the invasion proved to be just the beginning. Each new investigation suggested that human potential was far more extensive than anyone had initially understood. The Quarren, once seemingly invincible, found their galactic influence dramatically reduced. Other species, emboldened by humanity's resistance, began to challenge their long-standing dominance. The invasion that was meant to conquer had instead triggered a fundamental shift in galactic power dynamics. Technological innovation accelerated beyond anything previously imagined. Energy production, communication systems, and space exploration technologies grew directly from the lessons learned during the invasion. Universities and research centers around the world collaborated on projects that would have seemed impossible just a few years earlier. Lieutenant Chen's exploration vessel represented the culmination of this journey. Its systems could adapt to unknown environmental conditions, process energy in ways that defied previous scientific understanding, and respond to challenges with a level of flexibility that mirrored human biological adaptation. The launch ceremony brought together representatives from every continent and several alien civilizations. It was more than a scientific mission. It was a collective statement of human potential, a declaration that the species had transformed from a potential victim to a galactic explorer. Dr. Rodriguez reflected on the journey. The Quarren invasion had been a crucible, forcing humanity to discover capabilities that had lain dormant. What had begun as a moment of potential extinction had become a catalyst for unprecedented growth and understanding. Global communication networks broadcast the launch. Billions watched as the ship prepared to venture beyond known space. Children in schools around the world studied the adaptive technologies, understanding that their potential was limited only by imagination and collective effort. The diplomatic relationships continued to deepen. Species that had previously been isolated found common ground through humanity's unique approach to communication and problem-solving. The adaptive capabilities that had begun as a defensive mechanism were now a bridge between different civilizations. As the exploration vessel crossed the boundaries of known space, it carried more than advanced technology. It carried the collective hope, resilience, and adaptive spirit of an entire species. The mission represented a promise that humanity's potential was limited only by its ability to learn, adapt, and transform. Dr. Rodriguez watched the ship disappear from view, understanding that this was not an ending, but a beginning. The Quarren invasion had revealed something profound about humanity, that their greatest strength was not in technology or military might, but in the ability to grow, to change, to see every challenge as an opportunity for transformation. The universe waited, full of unknown challenges and infinite possibilities, and humanity was ready.